the first thing that I'm always interested in is like, I didn't grow up, playing football. Obviously never played quarterback, and I'm trying to figure out why you're my friend and you haven't taught me how to play quarterback. So if you were to work with me, how would you make me good? Like, what could you do to develop this body into a quarterback?
Yeah, man, I would find the best wing tee offensive coordinator out there, and I would convince you that serving your country is the way to go, and I would get you to Army or Navy, and you would break the all-time rushing record, and we would use your superpower of all your rugby experience.
There we go.
To make you that. No, I think we would look at what your superpower is, and for you, I know you well enough. I've seen you in short shorts to know that you can put force into the ground. Yep. And you can put vertical force into the ground for sure. And for some guys, that's a superpower. And, we transfer force, three ways: laterally, rotationally, and vertically. And what we've learned over time is when we get a hooper, when we get somebody who can get up and jump, really using that vertical force at the end of the throwing sequence as a superpower and not as a governor and shutting it down and making it all arm. I would start with looking at what do you do great as an athlete, and knowing you and watching you move, I know you can put force in the ground vertically. And so we would start with let's use that to the best of our abilities, and in that process figure out what you do that's inefficient that creates a compensation somewhere else, and then start patterning it out. But we would use what you got before we would try to fix what you don't.
Yeah. And that's perfect, because like, I've been around you for some years now, watch you work with all these guys. And it's funny because like, we're on the same field, but like, if someone asked me, like, tell me Jordan's exact profiling method for how he evaluates quarterbacks, like I could like stumble through it, but I just kind of see the outcome. And same with me, like when I'm on the field with you doing combine, that's like, you could tell people, oh yeah, Les does this, this, and this, but like ultimately the detail of it, we've been missing. So doing this podcast, I'm like, dude, I want to dive in. I want to know, like, how do you evaluate these guys? Like, what's your profiling system? How do you know what guys need, where they're inefficient, where they're leaking?
Well, I think maybe different than you doing it with a runner, and let's just say a track athlete, right? Because running is an element of a lot of the sports to the athletes that you guys play, soccer and rugby and football and all these different things. But let's just say track, right? I think mental and emotional side is far more relevant with quarterback than it is with the track athlete. And now clearly somebody can be a head case or somebody can be a machine in the 100. But the variability for a quarterback is a problem. And so I think the first thing I try and figure out is on the emotional and mental side. Are they capable of getting to the level that they're preparing for? Whether that's a draft prep, preparing for the NFL, freshman in high school, preparing to try and win the job as a sophomore on varsity. It doesn't really matter. And now in 2025, heading into 26, female softball player converting over to quarterback on the flag team to win the job, right? So it doesn't really matter male, female, or the level. I just finished with a DC freshman, friend of a friend's kid who, just flew out here for the day and just left, and trying to win the starting job as a sophomore, right? And so it kind of doesn't matter. I want to look at, are they capable of getting where they're going to get to? And so I look at it from a couple of ways. And this is pretty subjective, Les. I know you're very data-driven, and a lot of what you believe is based off of objectivity, years of studying science, research, data. We have that element on our side too. But are you a dog? Like, Are you, like, if it's me or you, is it me or you? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so I can't necessarily figure it out in the conversation. But I try and get enough access, stories, input, you know what I mean? Whistleblowers in some cases.
Yeah.
There's just a couple of things that for a quarterback are like, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Like, I'm sorry, I got no drill for you. If you're soft, if you're scared of getting hit, or your hammy's tight, so you're out 2 to 4, there's nothing I can do for you. If you're a bad guy, there's a couple bad guys that make a lot of money and play a lot of quarterback in the NFL, and they play for a long time. None of them are my clients. If you're a bad guy, if you're not a good person, I just think that it makes the whole thing harder. Okay. And then the third one is, if you're not willing to do simple things over and over again in pursuit of getting really good at this. Maybe you're so talented, you'll make it to a certain point anyways, or some people do. But I'm definitely not going to be super helpful in this. So those kind of three things for me is the weeding out process. And you and I have talked, and we're not going to name names, but like we've gone through draft programs. I've worked with a couple, you have too. We're thinking about the same person right now. Yeah. Where like, this ain't going to work. This ain't going to work. And congratulations on all of your talent, but this ain't going to work. And so, there's the initial phase of like weeding that out. But then I start looking at, somebody's physical makeup. I don't think you have to be a certain height, righty, lefty, black, white, you know what I mean? Pro salve, spread off, there's people make it from everywhere. Yeah. And before I dive into this, like in 2025, this position, and every year that we redo this podcast next year, I'll say the same thing. It's never been more equal opportunity quarterback. Yeah. We got 5'10", 5'11" guys going number one. The majority of the best quarterbacks in the league are African-American. That wasn't the case at one point. Like, we got 2 starters in the league right now who are from North Shore, Oahu. Yeah. It's just like, sure. North Dakota State had 2 top 3 picks in a 5-year window. North Dakota State did. True. So it's just never been more equal opportunity. Like, if you can play, they'll find you, right? Internet, social media, all that stuff. So there's the weeding out process. And then there's are you willing to do simple things over and over and over again, in pursuit of getting really good at it? And then on the mental side of it, I try and classify guys into different categories. So yeah, I've had guys who get on the whiteboard and I say, draw up a play. And it's real simple and elementary. And it sounds like this guy might not be that smart. Well, hold on. Maybe he's really smart. He just hasn't been exposed to any good football. Like, he just hasn't been asked to learn a lot of things. Okay. Or maybe he isn't capable of learning it and has some issues with, taking in a lot of information. I've had guys that are not very intelligent. Like, they have a hard time learning, but they've like put so much work into it and so much effort into like understanding what they've been asked to know that they actually sound really smart. And so I try and figure out which one when they are. And there's been some great players who don't learn very quickly. And so it's if they don't learn very quickly, what's their process for making up for that deficiency? And then lastly, I would say it's kind of like I'm older than you. I grew up playing NBA Jam. And so you create a player, but you only get so many attributes. Yeah. Unless you got the code. Right. Yeah. And I remember this. Yeah. And so I can't make him 7'6" and fast and with a jumper and defense. And so you got to figure out where you put those attributes. And so the way I look at it is, what unique capabilities do you have? And then what deficiencies are we measuring that against? So if you're going to be 5'10", and we can talk about a client that I have that you've worked with, Damon Williams Jr. at Washington. Yes. If you're going to be 5'10" and a quarter, okay, we better offset, and I can't do anything to help you on that. Then we better do some things to help offset that. So one of the things he does to offset that is he's got world-class speed and change of direction and running ability. And the other thing is he sees the field really well. The other thing is he's a really good leader. The other thing is, in my experience, he's very, very professional in how he goes about his business and how he goes about getting better. The other thing is he's bought in on becoming a pocket passer and being very consistent and connected to the ground in the pocket, right? And I can keep going. So he's 5'10", but he's offset that deficiency with these unique capabilities. And it's just constantly measuring those things. So like when you get a guy, your filters, like you're going to figure out, if they have balls, like if they're a dog. But when you're looking at like watching their film, like what do you look for? Because like when I watch quarterbacks looking for film, I'm like, did he complete the pass or not? But you're seeing so many different layers of like evaluation to that point. Yeah, so I may know a lot about offenses and scheme, but that doesn't mean that I can put on Iowa State and know what the concept was and the read was, right? Because I don't know how they told him to read it. But you can watch tape and then hit pause and go, who's the most open person? And is the ball going to that person? And sometimes like a guy who's not part of the read is wide open and that happens, whatever. But like in general, how is it? Is it on time? How's the consistency of the accuracy? You know, a lot of times I'll hit pause when the guy's hands come apart. So then I go, okay, what is he seeing? And then I look to the receiver and the DB, and then I hit play and I go, where'd the ball go? And so just like you can kind of see the guy's feel for accuracy and the defender. Some guys need to see the guy wide open before they let their hands come apart. Right? And some guys' hands come apart. And so that's how you start to go anticipation. And then spatial awareness in the pocket. Are they climbing into problems? Are they moving into problems? Are they always, like, a lot of times a guy moves in the pocket, I hit pause. Is he equidistant to the closest bad guys? So Joe Burrow is a client of both of ours. When he moves around in the pocket, you may have an opinion on, was it efficient? Was it not? Was it that? But when you hit pause, when he goes to throw, he's almost always equidistant between him and the bad guys. So he moved himself to like the safest spot. Subconsciously, physically, obviously he did it. Like from a proprioception perspective, where's he at? You know, and then is he aligned to, he's aligned to, he's in a position of leverage to be able to make that throw. Well, yeah, give him all the money. So like, as I'm watching, I'm kind of like, I don't have a checklist. I don't sit there with a rubric that I fill out, but we can get a feel for it. And then my partner, Mike White, he's looking at his things. Chloe, as Sharaba, who works with us, she has a background in scouting. So she's kind of looking at it from a day. So we end up having really interesting discussions when we're evaluating quarterbacks. And we do all the time. I mean, usually on Fridays, we watch somebody that we don't work with, to be able to start to form some opinions. And so there's essentially this kind of checklist that we go through, that's not necessarily a rubric, but your eyes go where they go. And sometimes you can find out right away. And sometimes you find out right away, we need to load more tape.
Quick pause here. I want to talk about the universal speed rating. So many coaches I meet are just overwhelmed. They're running sessions, programming, dealing with parents, and trying to prove their athletes are actually getting faster. One of the reasons why we built USR was to take some of this stress off the table. One software solution to help coaches test, track, and show improvement without adding hours to your week. If you feel like you're guessing with your speed training or trying to make sense of your data, hit the link in the description. Schedule a free consult and see how the USR can help. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because it's such an interesting dynamic how you have, like, you can see things globally, but also into detail. Then you got Mike, who's very, very, very technical and's got like a PhD in just like seeing movement. And you got Chloe, who can understand like kind of like more of the scouting perspective. And I've watched you guys watch film before, and I barely understand what you guys are talking about. But the dynamic of the group is like exactly what you would see in like a SEAL Team 6. Like there's a leader, and then there's this guy has this specialty, and this guy has this specialty. And you guys come up with a plan out of that like 10 minutes of tape, which is incredible. And, my next question is a little specific. I've been thinking about this and wanting to ask you for a while, but I've watched Josh Allen since he was at, since he was at JUCO. Then I watched him go to Wyoming, and then I watched from Wyoming to the NFL, and he just keeps getting better. And I know you're humble, but I've seen you do things with him that have like shifted a lot of like the way he throws and the way he responds to things. Like, can you dive into that like discreetly? I know you can't tell us everything, but like you dive into like what changed and what you guys focused on year after year.
Yeah, I think, with Josh, there's a bunch of unique capabilities that we've seen. I think a fan on Instagram can have a long list. They can write a list. But he's a powerful guy. And I think a part of it is his upbringing, carrying heavy buckets, picking things up, putting them up on the shelf on a farm. He got big joints. His wrists are big. His ankles are big. His knees are big. And so he's a very stable athlete. And he also is a very powerful athlete. And as you know, I've got 3 boys and a baby girl. And his little brother's 11 months younger than him, Jason, who's pretty similar. he's not a professional athlete, so he's not built like him. He doesn't train like that. But
Right.
but growing up, they basically like fought, wrestled, played basketball, hit wiffle balls, worked on the farm, plus 8 other things every single day together, and it was a competition.
Yeah.
So I think if you look at like who he is, aside from this like unique personality where he's like so funny and he's got a videographic memory and he's super smart and all these things, at the end of the day, he's a competitor and he's a laborer. He's used to doing things. I used to say during the draft prep process when I was talking to teams, so when you grow up on a farm and a pipe breaks, your dad wakes you up and teaches you how to fix it. And then the next time the pipe breaks, he just says the pipe broke and then you go fix it. There is no plumber.
That's real.
On a farm. Right. And so that's not how I grew up. Like, we call it plumber. So that's unique. But if you look at Josh, I think he was 56% completion percentage in college, which is in most places gets you benched. And then he was hovering around 58, I think. I don't know, but in front of me, but like mid to high 50% his first 2 years in the league. Part of it was personnel. You know, his first year in the league, his number 1 wide receiver was Kelvin Benjamin. Right? People forget that. And so his first 2 years, he played well, made some superstar plays, hurdled over Anthony Barr, and did a couple of like memorable things, but was not playing great football. And going into his third offseason, or going into his third season, that offseason was COVID. That was you and I and Burrow.
Yeah.
And so come March, everything stopped. And him, Sam Darnold, and Kyle Allen were living here, and we were sneaking onto fields. There was no offseason. There was no OTAs. They just essentially reported a training camp. And so the third year, he jumped to 70% and added Stephon Diggs, and a bunch of stuff really started making sense for him. But I feel like that offseason is when he really learned how to control it. Yeah. And we had a breakthrough day. We were at Doheny Beach, and there's this long row of palm trees, and I was having these high school kids run behind them, and you're having to anticipate and really layer it probably 2 trees ahead.
That's when
I still do this
the trees.
Yeah, they run behind the trees. Yeah. And there's a skinny palm tree, and I still do this, and like every time I go there I think about this kind of like aha moment that he had when he started letting it go like 2 trees ahead and layering it. And what happened is his fastball was his only pitch, I would say, for years, and it got him drafted because it was fast. Right, it was 103 mile an hour fastball. But really, that offseason is when he developed some other pitches, and really quickly his layer and his touch kind of became his go-to, and he rarely throws the ball as hard as he can now. And that was kind of like the start for him of what it did for him physically in terms of, you know, being able to make the play. But I think more than that, mentally, subconsciously, confidence-wise, the ability to do all those things. And then he's just continued to grow every year in different things, completely away from me. I mean, just with the coaches he's had, the players he's had, the other quarterbacks in the room. He's a superstar, bona fide for sure, but his level of humility when it comes to getting better is actually one of his superpowers. He does not think he has it all figured out, and he continues to find ways to get better.
That's facts. It's funny. That drill you do on the beach, I always just thought it was like some Jordan Palmer, like California dude drill. Like, let's go to the beach and throw the ball around. And now, like, dang, like, I get it now. It makes sense.
Well, it's grass and it's slightly slanted. So if you drop back or you kick back, you're going downhill. You have to drive yourself uphill. So to drive uphill and take something off of it and get it to turn over and judge speed, angle, and there's a tree, and don't scuff my footballs up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, for like June in Cali, it's like as football as I can make it.
No, I love that. You mentioned Sam, and I've been watching this year as a pure fan, just like, I've known Sam for a while because I've seen him around you, but like, I feel like he's got something different. What do you think it is this year?
Well, I think Sam's like unique trait is, at this point, it's resiliency, or whatever the word is. Because Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones and Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith and these guys who have been counted out and they suck and they're a bust and they should have never, and then they end up having a bunch of success. Without the resiliency, like they wouldn't have been in a position to have the success that they're having today. And I'm not talking about Geno and the Raiders. I'm talking about Geno getting $100 million from the Seahawks from balling. Like so that resilience that they had got them to the point where they can have this success. So that's kind of with Sam. I can't answer the question without starting with that. But Sam, every single offseason is treated the same. Him and Mike are over there for like a month right after the season ends at stance on the basketball court with no football, going through movement.
Yeah.
And
every year. Yeah.
He doesn't cut a corner on bye week. He was here, 3 weeks ago, right? He got with Naomi twice. He got with Drew at Modus, I think 2 or 3 times. He spent 4 hours in our office going through our presentation on the midseason check-in. He probably ate at his favorite restaurant. He probably also went to dinner with his parents. Like, it's just so routine and such a byproduct of his routine and his behaviors. But he's also like a top 3 pick in the draft type talent.
Right.
And, you asked about Josh. Now, Sam, I don't say this a whole lot, and it's not now I can say it, and it can't be perceived as a knock on Josh. The difference between Sam Darnold and Josh Allen physically is just not what everybody thinks it is.
Sam's a good athlete.
Well, I mean, they had the same 40, and they kind of have the same velocity, and they kind of throw at the same distance.
Yeah. I played basketball with Sam and Josh, and literally they're both incredible. Like, you could just tell by the way they move and use their body. I mean, Sam was throwing down dunks in the offseason.
100%. He had offers in basketball. And 3 years ago, people go, Josh Allen's here and Sam Darnold's here. Well, maybe from a productivity and stats perspective, now we understand it, like where you go in the situation you're in, sort of relevant. But I'm just saying, in a workout setting, measure everything. There's areas where there might be a gap, and there's areas where there might be a gap in favor of Sam. And so I'm just saying, like, Sam is also incredibly talented. He's very twitchy. He's very sturdy and stable. But I don't know that we work with anybody who has a better reason for why he does something. Why do you step to the left that way? Why do you punch that way and gun? Why do you initiate movement under center on play action to the left that way? And, I'm definitely has to do with what we are at the time, the role that we play in it. But Sam has a reason for why he does everything. Like, you're not going to hear, I don't know, out of that guy's mouth. And so, Sam, the part that, this is a podcast and let's get people to listen to it. No one's really talked about this. The time he spent in San Francisco was more valuable than everybody realizes. To be able to hear Kyle Shanahan explain why we're going to run this play and why he's going to inside release and why we're going to bring him here in motion. That's getting a semester at Harvard. And then to watch Brock Purdy go to a Super Bowl and not change, and his attitude. Sam was raving about what he learned from Brock. Not necessarily Brock sitting him down, putting his arm over his shoulder saying, here's how you do it. Just watching Brock. Right. Everyone has an opinion on Brock. My opinion, I don't know Brock. My opinion's based off what Sam's told me. And so when it came contract time, based off my opinion, based off what Sam's told me, give him the money. Because to watch somebody go to a is incredibly valuable. And so I think Sam got a lot from that year. And then you add a year with Kevin, and now the situation he's in right now. I mean, the Seahawks are going to be for real for a while.
Yeah, I see that. I'm a fan. I've been watching. I do want to double click on Mike though for a little bit, because I've watched Mike as a coach when he first came in to now, and then just seeing how he's influenced your program, and like you said in the beginning, you're not a super data driven technical guy. I remember in the beginning it was a little bit more relaxed and free flowing, and Mike came in and Mike had this vision for the best way people to move, or hey, there's a curriculum without actually throwing the ball, and then there's curriculum connecting your movement to the ball. And then I'm probably butchering it, but those layers were eye-opening to me, because it was kind of the same thing we were thinking about from a speed perspective. But yeah, can you just double click on Mike, how you met, and then just how he's influenced things in your development process?
Yeah. So our story is really unique. So Mike White's his name. He played at Southwest Missouri State. We met about 15 years ago. He worked for Student Sports, which created the Elite 11 and the Nike opening. And he was on the operations side, organizing the events, talent, all that stuff. But he was there with the top quarterback coaches in the country, and the top quarterbacks coming through every year. And it was really just noticing everybody says something different. Everybody does something different. There's no uniformity. There's no consistency. He's just noticing that. I don't know that at that time I had the answer for it. Just was noticing it, I've been a part of every Elite 11. And for those of you who are listening, Elite 11 is the top, depending on how many we invite that year, 18 to 20 rising senior high school quarterbacks in the country. It's been a part around 27 years. And I think this year 90% of quarterbacks on NFL rosters went through the process. So it's 10 of the last 11 Heisman winners that were quarterbacks, 9 of the last 11 number one picks who were quarterback. It's just whatever the stats are, it's pretty consistent. And so Mike, it's kind of two parts of the story. How we got connected is he hit me up. It was Burrow's. It was Stidham and Drew Lock's year and Tyree Jackson's year. And he said, "Can I come down?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam and Josh's rookie offseason. Hey, I want to come down. I want to check it out. No problem. Come on down. And he really was just watching. And finally was just kind of studying it. Let's look at these guys in person. And was basically like, hey, I think I see what's wrong with what Tyree Jackson's doing wrong. And that kind of, I never thought about it like that. Interesting. I will pat myself on the back and go, even though I was the guy and I had all the top picks, I've always been open to learning more. And
very true.
So he had an interesting perspective on what was happening that I didn't know about. And there was another thing that was happening at that time where my childhood friend married one of the top LPGA tour players. And her name was Natalie. And I went to play golf with them. And she said, hey, my swing coach is coming to town. And so I went and I watched them swing. And I was like, they lost me right away. I'm an NFL quarterback on my 5th team, training the top players in the country. In my off seasons, I spent those with Drew Brees and Carson Palmer, with Todd Durkin, just surrounded by people who know what they're talking about and have a reason for everything. And I'm listening to an LPGA tour player and her swing coach, and I've golfed my whole life, lose me. They're talking about the serratus and T-spine mobility. I didn't know what any of these things were. And it hit me, and I'm like, are we behind golf? Wait a second. Is everyone doing this wrong? Yeah. So I had just had this experience where wait, is everyone doing this wrong? Including myself. Wow. I'm the man, everyone says. Is everyone doing this wrong? Wow. And then Mike comes to me and goes, I think you might be I think there's a different way to do this. So really it just became conversational really over the course of 2 years. He wasn't an employee for 2 years. He was just coming down all the time. And Mike's personal story, he had a back problem, and every surgeon and doctor told him the same thing. Have surgery and take these pills. And he met a trainer who said, long story short, I don't think you need surgery. I think you have a weak core. And say that to an adult male, and they'll go, what do you mean? A female trainer. And so he went all in on with that. And he's never had a back problem since. He golfs, he plays pickleball, and he can rip it. And so then he went down a rabbit hole of understanding the core and why. And no, he doesn't have his degree or master's or doctorate in anything. He's utilized the internet and the democratization of education to develop an understanding of these things. Got TPI certified, went all these routes. So then we kind of really start working together. I'm wondering if we're all doing it wrong, including myself. And he's in a position to just pour all of his time into creating the solution. And so it's been 6 years. He's a partner now. And we get a chance to continue to evolve every year. And we are, to put a button on this, we're completely convinced that this position is about movement. And if you have a good quarterback who misses a throw and mechanically he did something wrong, the mechanical issue is caused by the movement that precedes the throw. So if somebody overstrides and sails one over somebody's head and the coach says, don't overstride. Well, no, he put himself in a position where the only thing he could do from that position was overstride to get out of that position. And that's where the whole thing starts. And so for us, the movement side of things is the impetus. You know this. If we spend 2 hours with an NFL client on the field, most likely we're going to throw for 45 minutes at the end. There's literally over 50% of the time is going to be spent creating the movement. How do we use the ground, rotational, lateral, vertical, whatever it is. How do we build the movements to support the actual movement you need to do? So we don't practice drops. We allow your body, it's a lot of times a software update, to be able to go through these ranges of motion, create stability, lengthen, tighten, whatever we need to do to be able to support the movement that you need to do. And I think at the end of the year, all of our clients added up. I bet 25% of the stuff that we're talking about on the physical side of the game is actually throwing mechanics. I bet 75 is movement.
Yeah. And I think that's the interesting point that I've picked up just from listening to your guys' conversation. Well, first, going back to the golf situation, if you look at the strides that have been made in golf are insane. Like your average golf pro coach is pretty high level in terms of mechanics, in terms of understanding like the kinematics and kinetics of the forces and all these things, like compared to like your average quarterback coach. It's the same in tennis.
Well, hold on. Can I jump in right there?
Yeah.
Okay. So I did this research. So let's say I want to be the assistant head pro at Arroyo Trabuco, a public golf course down the road that I think costs $80 to $120 to play. It's a regular place. Yeah. Okay. If I want to apply for a job there, I need to have a level 3 TPI certification to apply for that job. Well, I'm not talking about being a tour caddy. I'm talking about to work at Arroyo. Okay.
Jesus.
I have never met, strong statement coming, I've never met a quarterback coach, NFL, college, or private guru whisperer guy who is certified in anything.
Yeah, 100%.
The gap is not small. Like I say, it's 15 years behind baseball, 20 behind golf.
Yeah.
At the professional level. So I'm for sure talking about high school guys.
Yeah. And there's it's the same in my industry. Like you see guys in the park, everyone's coaching, picked up a weekend certification, they're doing it. Level of understanding is nowhere near. Like I listen to pitching coaches sometimes. Like I go and watch like youth baseball and stuff, and I'm listening to pitching coaches and I'm like blown away at like what a base level of knowledge on pitching is nowadays. It's insane. And it's definitely not that in my field, definitely not in your field. Mm-hmm. And I think the end of what you were just talking about was probably the most interesting thing to me, was like, it's the way you throw is preceded by the movement before it. So you spend more time on movement, but also quarterbacks don't just stand there in the pocket in a perfect scenario and throw. Like they're on the run, they're escaping, they're throwing off platform. I wanted to dive into that just for a second, of like how you train your guys to move off platform. Maybe explain what off platform is. I might be using it in the wrong sense here. But like guys like getting out of the pocket, moving, throwing, weird arm angles, and I'm seeing the game to, develop more into that. But yeah, can you talk a little bit about your system of how you think about it?
Yeah, so let's say that there's two ways to throw. There's on platform, which is what you're picturing right now. Both my feet are in the ground and I'm going to stride at my target and throw. Whether I'm chilling in the pocket, whether I'm 3 and a hitch, 5 and a hitch, play action, whether I'm playing catch with less, like that's on platform. Okay. Off platform is on the run. So a right-handed quarterback, when he goes to throw on the run, his right foot's going to be on the ground as he draws the ball back. Okay.
Yeah.
Now there's the third, which is like drifting, falling away, screen, whatever. But for the most part, there's two ways. We're on platform or off platform. Okay. That's a pretty generic term, like pretty, commonplace, on the run or off platform. So here's the data side of things. So I got a great story. Mark Trestman was the head coach of the Bears when I played there. And we were the first team to hire a data analyst. And so we hired this guy, and I heard about him. Cutler was telling me, he's like, oh, we hired this like data scientist guy, and Trestman's got all this weird stuff going on. And so, it's the offseason. And I'm like, I go up and introduce myself, and he goes, oh, my brother played with you. It was Alex Taney's brother. I can't remember the data analyst name, but his brother was in the league and with me with Tennessee or somewhere else or whatever. And so anyway, I'm like, hey, tomorrow let's grab lunch, at the team facility. So I sit down with this guy, and again, this is the first in the league. And so I go like, all right, dude, what do you do? What's a data analyst do?
Yeah.
And the only way you can answer is like, well, I'm a computer science engineer and I played quarterback and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I go like, what are you working on right now? And he goes, well, Coach Trestman has me doing a project. And I'll just say this. If you're a football fan and you're listening to this and you think that Mark Trestman was like a bust at the Bears, he's the smartest football mind I've been in a room with to this day.
Wow.
So Mark had him do a study. And he said he took all the off-platform throws the prior year made by all the quarterbacks who made an off-platform throw in the league. So it was whatever it was, either hundreds or maybe thousands. I don't know, but it wasn't a Bear study. It was all the times a quarterback threw the ball on the run league wide all year. Okay. And he came to the conclusion that 80% of those throws that the quarterback made, they were not under duress. Meaning they were not running away from the line of scrimmage with a bad guy who's faster than them chasing them. 80% of the time, they didn't have all day, but they could slow up. They could get under control. They could get themselves aligned. 20% of the time, they were running for their lives. Well, there's valuable information. You're telling me that 80% of the time that I'm going to throw the ball on the run, I can get myself aligned? Well, I don't need a QB whisperer to tell me the importance of getting aligned. Why don't I work on getting aligned?
Right.
Now, think about that study was done when I was playing. So this is probably like 2011, 12. Let's say it's that little era. Okay. Who were the best quarterbacks in the league then? Peyton Manning, maybe Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Tony Romo, Carson Palmer. I said Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning. You want me to continue to name bad athletes who can't run?
Interesting.
Okay. So I bet that number's higher. Who are the best quarterbacks in the league right now?
Athletic. Yeah.
Josh Allen just won MVP. Lamar Jackson's won 2. Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow, we know, can move with the best of them, right? Justin Herbert, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the number's higher. Some of these guys are faster than the D end.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? And so when it comes to off platform, we look at a couple of things. How do I leave the spot? And then how do I get under control for the 80%? How do I get myself under control? And I don't need to move at a certain rate, right? You have to measure certain things, 1.2, 0.6, right? From spot to spot. For me, it can't be numbers based. I have to get to the next spot before he does.
Right.
So it's much more about efficiency than it is on stride length, power output, force, all that, you know what I mean? So it's those numbers are less relevant for us. It's more about, and then when I get there, how am I under control when I get there? So we're able to, you and I work together on some of these things. And that's what we've been exploring the last few years is instead of just working a lateral that makes sense for all these other positions, what do we start in this position? Because that's typically the position we're going to leave in. And then what's the angle we're typically going to run at? So we did a study. We update the study every year. What are the most common ways an NFL quarterback leaves the pocket? And we use Joe Burrow as an example because we think he hangs in the pocket and leaves the pocket consistently the best. He hangs in the pocket when he should have, and he leaves the pocket when he should have. He's not a quick to get out guy, and he doesn't hang on to the ball too long either. And he's so efficient with his footwork that what are the most common ways he leaves the pocket? And so for his programming, we started this offseason with the most consistent ways that he left the pocket. And then we got with Dak as trainer and we built those into movement patterns, into his training regimen to let's just strengthen these movements.
All right. We got to take a second to talk about the universal speed rating because I literally just found this out and it blew my mind. We just hit over 500,000 verified speed tests inside the USR software. 500,000. That's coaches all over the country testing, tracking, and proving athlete progress with the system. It's not just data. It's giving athletes confidence and giving coaches real proof of results. I remember running our first speed lab test back in 2019 in a closet that my uncle helped me build, now 500,000. If you're not testing speed yet or you're doing it without a system, this is your chance to check it out. Hit the link in the description, book a free consult, and see how the USR could work in your program. I want to go deeper into, I guess, the physical development. Because like for me, when I think about like training people how to run, I'm always thinking about like me coaching you to run is probably the last thing. It's always like there's physical capacities that we're developing first, and then that's bleeding into what your technique ends up being. And really specifically in youth, like if you're taking, high school guys and you're developing those high school guys, like what are the things that you feel like are missing in the program, both physically or it could be mentally, it could be other things. But like, if you look at the common trend of how quarterbacks are training in high school, they're doing a lot of the flashy, sexy, cool, mechanics driven stuff, where I've seen you take a turn towards developing other pieces, physical qualities, nutrition, health, mental stuff. Maybe just dive into that for a little bit.
May I pause for a second and tell Dottie that I'm grabbing the kids, not her?
Yeah, no, go.
So I see a ton of really common denominators when it comes to the young. And let's just say, instead of an age like high school, let's just say like the first couple years of taking it serious. Because for some guys, I don't know. Chloe's in Ohio right now with a 5th grade client. Well, she flew to Ohio to spend 3 days with the 5th. So for some people, that's 5th grade. Some people, that's their junior year, right? But let's say the first couple years of taking it serious. I call it the developmental phase of your career. So for the first couple of years, I see a lot of, let's start with like the misses, right? Going about it the wrong way. I see a lot of consistency there. One is making everything results based. Part of it's the kid, part of it's the parents. We won the championship and I threw for this many yards. Everything's going great. Don't need to change anything. I missed one. And what's wrong? Let me fix the result. Okay. So the result of the throw is a byproduct of what you did or didn't do. And so I see a lot of people that are results driven, focused on this. So they could do something that's super inefficient, but the ball spun and then they see the ball spin. And so they're going to do that. And then fast forward down the road, they got an elbow issue, a lat problem, this, that. They're not very good. They peaked in 8th grade because they've been results driven, chasing results. So that's an issue that I see. I mean, I can go for an hour on issues that I see. One of them's, nutrition. You think about going through puberty and all the things that are happening, and there's such few households that are experts on this thing that's happening with all of their kids. That's actually the thing that's going to affect like where this goes for them. Right. So they get the private coach, they go to a private school, they go here, they got the speed coach on Tuesday nights, and then they're going to get some extra work with the shooting coach afterwards, and whatever their sport is, whatever their discipline is. And then they go like Chick-fil-A line, and then they grab some cereal in the morning, and then they love Prime. But like, Mom, can I get a Sprite at dinner? Like, yeah, for sure, you have Sprite. Right. And so then all of a sudden we sit here and we're like, well, we just like whiffed on the whole thing that connects everything, that is the thread that ties it all together. And so that's probably the most consistent thing I see, because I've got kids I see kids who have great training and do it right and aren't results driven and all that stuff, and then still whiff on this. And so I think at the end of the day, the most consistent one I see is the nutrition. Like, what are they putting in their body? What are they not putting in their body? It goes both ways. Is that true for you too?
No, 100%. I mean, so our environment right now is about 400 to 600 kids a week, like from clubs and different teams and different things. And, one of the things that we notice, like when kids come to us, it's usually in the afternoon, usually after 4 o'clock. The first question we ask them is like, when's the last time you ate? And they're like 11 o'clock. And then what'd you eat? Oh, I had like a piece of pizza. What'd you eat for breakfast? I didn't eat breakfast. Then they won't eat until their practice is over and after they're done training, which is like 8 p.m. So if you think about like those 2 windows of like 11 a.m. is the only time they eat, and they don't eat till 8 p.m. They're coming to us with like bad energy, distracted, difficult to teach. And that's like in the masses. Now, obviously you'll get your like kids at the top levels that like their parents do get it and understand, but it's a massive gap because you can't develop and you can't adapt the way you want. And then you just think like, oh, well, I'm just not that good at sports. It's like, no, like the thing that you do more than anything else is eat and sleep. And if you don't dial those two things in, the other pieces won't fall, you know?
I think it's also one of the things you'll never stop learning about. It's like money.
Yes.
Like you'll never stop learning about it, right? Like I'm forming an S Corp as opposed to an LLC and understanding the tax implications. I'm 41 years old. That's money. I'm learning about that right now.
Yeah.
Right. Going through it with my financial advisor, all that stuff. So I equate like young athletes eating healthy to, let's use you as an example. Okay. You came from, let's say, humble beginnings. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you started training and all that stuff, did you have a bunch of money to start, or were you closer to a bunch of money or closer to nothing?
Closer to zero. Yeah.
Okay. Closer to zero. So now you're becoming more successful, right?
Yeah.
Making a lot more than you did then. 10 years from now, hopefully making a lot more then than you do now. So your ability to manage your funds and your understanding, because you had nothing and then you had $10 and then you had $100 and then you had $1,000, right? Because you didn't have it and then you got it over time and earned it. It's not that you're going to kill it and be it's not even that. I think you will, but like, it's not even that. It's just like, you have such a appreciation for the value of $1.
Yeah.
Because when you only had 9 of them, like, and now I got 18 and then now I've got 250,000, like, so you're appreciating versus somebody, whenever the point is when you didn't have it, that age, give them $1 million.
Yeah.
Give a senior in high school $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Terrifying.
This is why 87% or whatever of NFL players are broke within 5 years, because they all of a sudden had money. Poof, here's money. With no context for $1 and no context for how to make the dollar, right? And you didn't get it from endorsements or being famous. You got it from running a service business.
Hand-to-hand.
Put in time, get money for time, right? And so I think nutrition's the same way. Is if you to invest in your kid with the training and to throw with Jordan Palmer and run with Les Spellman and you know what I mean? And do all those things. And then hopefully down the road, figure out the nutritional piece. It's like, it's too late.
Yeah.
Or you're one of the groups of people that can transition as a pro athlete into somebody who eats healthy because you're so talented and everything went so well for you. But I just think like, this is the thing to start in the beginning, is to understand this. And so, you know, Thread Performance, I launched a nutrition company about 16 months ago, and you're familiar with it. We've had a bunch of conversations. We're doing stuff together now with it because we see the same problem. And I entered into this, and my co-founder, Clark Hardman, my high school ex receiver, like the position X, who was a, College World Series center fielder at Cal State Fullerton, won a World Series, was a high pick by the Cubs, played professionally. We saw the same problem. I go, everyone's asking me what they should feed their kids. And I didn't really know because I don't remember puberty, and my oldest kid's 10. So I haven't been a parent going through puberty yet. And I didn't know. And I asked a really smart friend who owns Ancient Nutrition, a huge company. And I was just like humbly like blown away with all the stuff I didn't know. Like I just, everything he told me, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And then it hit me. I'm like, if I have no idea, I don't think anybody else does either from a parent's perspective. And so that was the impetus for launching Thread Performance. Is we got together and we go, what is all the stuff we don't know? We built relationships with formulators to be able to make products. And it's kind of a rocket ship right now. It's growing like crazy. And not because we're world-class marketers, but because there's a world-class need for this.
Yeah.
I know what parents invest in their kids from a football perspective. I run expensive camps and it's expensive to interact with us. You do too. And so we launched Thread with the idea that I don't think, a lot of these families know much about what their kids should be putting in their bodies during puberty. And I actually learned something. I don't think I've shared this with you. I learned something really interesting during this process. And so the guy that I was talking to said, when we were talking about, got to the point where we were like, maybe we'll start a company. He goes, do you think you'll be a nutrition company or a supplement company? And to show how little I knew at that time, I'll go, a supplement company, we're gonna make supplements, right? I don't know. It's in a bag, a supplement, right? And he goes, well, actually, as a society, I think we use the term supplement incorrectly. So Les, let's say that you and Tree, your wife, that you guys wake up in the morning and you cook beef liver because you want the iron and you want all the stuff from it, right? And so you guys go to the store, you buy beef liver, you throw it in a pan, you saute it, and you eat it, okay? And then, you just had another kid, you're like, we don't have time for this, and you switch from eating beef liver to taking beef liver tablets, okay? Let's say you're like, we don't have time, it's a mess, let's just take the tablets, okay? That would be a supplement. But let's say me and Dottie, my wife, have never heard of beef liver. We watch an interview or a podcast and we go, ooh, beef liver sounds like it's good for you. And we buy the same tablets that you guys took, okay? And it says supplement, beef liver supplement on the bottle. For us, that's not a supplement. For you, it is. Because what you guys were consuming this, you changed the delivery system to a tablet and you've supplemented the delivery system. For my wife and I, we are not supplementing it. We are introducing it to our diet. As a society, people take supplements, but that supplement is actually not a supplement. They're introducing it to their diet. We're not a supplement company because what's in this, we have 4 products, but what's in Daily Fuel, grass-fed whey protein, collagens 1, 5, and 10, copper, molybdenum, mushroom blend, daily greens, daily vitamins, probiotics. I don't think your kid is supplementing how they're getting it. I don't think your kid gets this, which means you're introducing what's in this into your kid's diet. Therefore, it's not a supplement. And that one really changed like the way I thought about this. You won't find the word supplement. Like that changed the way I thought about it because the whole impetus for starting the company was I don't think anybody's consuming this because none of this is in the Chick-fil-A line or at Subway.
Yeah, facts. No, and it's so crazy because like you have this experience all the time, but when you sit down with parents and you're talking through training and you have to make them realize that like you're training for 2 hours and then there's 22 other hours. And like, I don't know, I've spent hours on the phone with parents over the course of weeks, just being like, okay, well, help me understand what are the other things that you're doing and the timings of it. And you're trying to put it all together. And it's like, damn, like what, we've felt this gap for a long time. It's like, it would be really helpful if somebody just like gave you guys what to do during these other hours. Cause I don't get paid for those other hours, and just thinking about this now as a dad, I got 3 kids and I'm like, all right, like I know how quickly it goes from we're going to eat healthy to I don't have time because I got to get to these 17 things. And the delivery system of how you get them the healthy food, like it has to be changed. Like back in the day when I was a kid, we were on one team. We went to practice 3 days a week and that was it. And it was very clear and the times didn't change. We had a game like once a week. Well, now you look at the landscape. The kids have games 2 to 3 times a week. They practice 3 to 5 times and they're practicing an hour longer than what we practice. So the whole game has changed now. It's like, well, if you're expecting to be at home cooking like these perfect meals with all the nutrients and all the things in it, it's almost impossible, and I feel it, so it's incredible what you guys have come up with. And I just need to know when can I start my kids on it? Cause I got a 5-year-old.
Well, you can get them on Fuel right now, and then our hydration packs. So we have 4 products, and what we started with
loves that, by the way.
Yeah, the hydrations all 4 of them they don't taste healthy, but we meet with so the idea is like there's a million nutrition companies and supplement companies and powders and all that stuff. Like it was crazy when we started this. There was not one that was specifically formulated and then from a marketing perspective positioned for athletes going through puberty. And so we started with 3 products. So Daily Fuel, we have chocolate and vanilla. Like I said, it's grass-fed whey protein. It's very specific types of collagen for what they need going through puberty. They need fascia repair. They need ligament and tendon integrity. They need those things. They're also like the mushroom blend, stress, anxiety, focus, bloating for girls. These things are helpful. Daily Edge is sustained energy over the course of the day. So it's a mushroom blend, and a lot of what's in there is helping with that focus, the energy, but it's all through muscle oxygenation. And then
pause on that one, because I had a girl tell me, and we're doing this like study where we've tested a bunch. We picked 15 of our best kids, gave them product. I don't know if you even know about this, but like we've been asking them to record information. On day 9, one of our athletes wrote I stopped taking my Adderall, and I've been taking, because I have so much energy and I feel incredible. I feel so much better. And to me, like, that brought tears in my eyes, because like I was a kid that was prescribed Adderall. I ended up not taking it, and I had to find a different solution. But man, like, that is a life-changing event right there. But yeah, continue.
Well, life-changing if he or she, I didn't hear that, it stops taking Adderall. Yeah. But it's also gonna shift her mindset for when she looks back on when she was however old she is right now and goes, wait, the medical system told me to do this. I found this natural, because by the way, that's basically a botanical product. Right. And that shifted it. How that could affect her next decision on the next thing that somebody tells her to take. Right.
Yes.
And then daily strength is completely botanical, and there's stuff in there for absorption, but it's very specifically done. I mean, it's pretty crazy. We can make the claims 2.5x strength gains. You're going to get a lot of feedback from the guys and gals on this one. That's our number one product. And then launching hydration. There's a bunch of great products. I've been taking Element for years. My wife, like I always say, I'm married to the healthiest person on the planet. We take Element. So then when we designed daily hydration, we looked at who gets their salt from where. Let's have the best salt. We have Himalayan pink sea salt, and we have French gray salt. But also, well, over 70% of teenagers, over half their diet is high processed foods. Yep. Well, you're talking about a lunch meat or Chick-fil-A or whatever. I feel like I'm banging on Chick-fil-A right now, but like whatever, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like a spicy chicken sandwich every now and then,
yeah.
But
every now and then.
But you counter that with potassium. And so for us, it's very potassium first. And we also have marine algae, which is like the best source of iodine. And then what are we going to use to sweeten this to get electric lemon lime to actually taste electric? Well, we're using a West African fruit called katemfi fruit, which has no sugar in it. It's got natural proteins, and it's one of the sweetest substances on earth. I think over the next couple of years, you'll hear I think a lot of people are going to, like, acai blew up. You know, I think katemfi is going to blow up. But this is not just like the best hydration. It's very specifically designed for young athletes who need hydration whether they're sweating or not. And so you can eat like crap and pound a bunch of water, and your body's not going to absorb it anyways. You're still going to cramp. And we're able to counter that. And 2026 is the year of the gummy for us. I mean, we're going to be really supporting families from the moment the kids wake up to when they go to bed. Right now, my house is sick. My kids went to school and brought it home, and now here I am sniffling. Yeah. And so we're able to really support families from the moment they wake up to when they go to bed, as an athlete, but as a human. And the best emails we're getting right now is parents saying, thank you for changing the conversation at the kitchen table. Every mom in the history of the world has tried to get their kids to eat vegetables. That hasn't changed. That's not going to change. But it's changed the conversation because nutrition's kind of becoming cooler. And so our product has to be cool enough for the kid and exactly what the mom's looking for. And I think in most cases, the mom finding out that she didn't realize that her kids wasn't getting this and should.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the same conversation in my household. It's like, well, what do we need what are all the things that they need to feel energy throughout the day and stay focused? And like a lot of times what happens is parents will be like, my kid's not focused. They act bad. And they very rarely look and see like, okay, well, what are you feeding your kid throughout the day? Like they just had a bunch of red dye at lunch, and you expect them to, be focused to do their homework later on. And it's like this total package of like understanding the lifestyle factors that go into not just being a good athlete, but being focused and being able to do your schoolwork and being a good friend and all these things. And I look back when I was younger, like I had no idea, like absolutely no idea. And it's like right now I'm looking at it as like the lowest hanging fruit to be elite right now is dialing in the nutrition and sleep, because we've gone pretty far in figuring out this performance thing. Like I can confidently tell you that we've tested 600,000 people around the country, actually around the world. And it's not very hard to get significantly faster and stronger and all those things. Like those things will happen if you just apply math to it, right? But staying injury-free, staying healthy, being focused, having your mind, like those are the pieces that are not as sexy and not as talked about. So yeah, I mean, I think this product is probably the biggest game changer in our arsenal that we've had with our athletes. And the feedback that I'm getting on the training now has more to do with the nutrition piece to it. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, no, it's cool. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about on this once the study comes out. because we have our 15 athletes that we gave it to. Their age ranges from 8 years old to 18, and it ranges from like first time athlete to national team level. And what we've done is we've recorded them before they started taking the supplement, and then we have like checkups throughout, and they're giving us feedback, and then we have a final testing date in like 2.5 weeks, I think. So I'll be able to share more about like their journey and their experience. But my assumption, just based on the responses, is that it hasn't just been a performance gain. It's actually been a lifestyle change. And it's been a shift in how they approach their preparation before school, what they do at lunch, what they do after school, and before training, and then after training. And that's going to be the long-term effect of this study. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's called Thread because, like, as a parent, you're doing it all. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I'm on until about 8:45, and my oldest one falls asleep, and I'm on. But like, even the branding, like the T with the little piece missing, like this is the thread that ties all of it together: the school, personality, behavior, performance, all of this is the thread that ties the whole thing together. And
I love it.
You know, we didn't get together and go like, dude, let's start a company. What should we do? It just started from me being blown away with how little I knew and going, wait a second, I don't think other people know this either.
Yeah.
And even specifically, like you have a lot of expertise on nutrition, but I don't know that if you could have said like, you know, a lot specifically about puberty and what's happening in the body and the nutrition, like it's just not this thing that everyone's talking about.
No one's done that. We'd be a target consumer. Yeah, it hasn't been at all. That's brilliant.
Yeah, if somebody tries our product and can't afford it or doesn't like the taste of it, but it changes the way they think about it, like I'm good with that. I'm fine with that. Yeah. There'll be other people that'll buy it and we'll make money and we'll run a business and all that stuff. But like I'm fine with just changing the conversation for a lot of people.
No, it's great. It's great. Jordan, I really appreciate this. It's been incredible. You answered a lot of questions. I got a whole page of notes over here. But if I'm a developing quarterback, where do I find your service? Like, how do I get involved? How do I become, Jordan Palmer-fied?
Yeah. So, QBSummit.com. We operate in a couple of ways. We have Summit U, which is our online platform. And, I've had different online platforms where I've shot stuff and put it on there. But I think we've really cracked the code on this. We built a content flywheel. So when we're on the field coaching, we're mic'd up. And, if I'm getting ready to make a point that I think with maybe a famous quarterback that I think everyone else should hear, then we shoot that. And then that goes right into Summit U. So actually every single week we're adding content. There is no drop coming up. It's every week. Physical, mental, and emotional. And it's affordable. It's a monthly subscription. It's growing like crazy. It's international right now. And so we're constantly doing stuff to just learn the game, physical, mental, and emotional. We will be running a series of camps. I got an update for you. Jared Garantano.
Yeah.
Moving to California in January.
Yep.
Full-time to be the director of development for Summit Youth. So we're finally going to have evenings and weekends with somebody who's overqualified to do it and amazing with kids. He's going to be running that for female quarterbacks. Chloe Sharaba, right now by default, but even down the road, is going to position herself as the top female quarterback coach in the industry. She's training, she's got a lot of junior college and high school starting male quarterbacks, but is really pioneering the women's side of things. And then we'll have Summit sessions and mini camps throughout the off season and a handful of camps. So Summit, QBSummit.com, and our social is at QBSummit or Jordan Palmer. And we're constantly putting stuff out on digitally. Summit U is an app. It's really easy. And we'll have a series of camps. But our core business is consulting. And so all of our college and NFL players and a handful of high school are on the annual retainer, and we're servicing them throughout the year, essentially a concierge program. So those are the best ways.
Let's get it. You'll have all my kids in those programs.
Come on.
So let's do it. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, you're the best. For those of you who listen and been listening to Les, he's more impressive and even better than you think. Whatever you've picked up and learned from him, I'm sure it's been awesome. And in some cases might have changed your life. In other cases might have just been interesting. But I feel like I've met, so many of the trainers, so many of the agents, so many of the people in the football space. Yeah. But Les is one of the most impressive. The story, the knowledge base, the resume over a short period of time. I think you're the best in the game, man. And I'm just honored that we get to continue to work together. So
let's do it. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yep.